Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Facebook Innovation A series with Creativity Effect. We're so excited you're here. Thank you for joining us from Facebook, from LinkedIn, from YouTube to Landing Innovation Part 1, Session 6 of our Innovation Ace series. I'm Andy Tilstra.
And I'm Karen Tilstra, and we're from Creativity Effect. And our mission is simple. We are committed to helping anybody who wants to become a better creative thinker, problem solver, or innovative leader and develop new mindset, skills, and tools to help them do just that. So we're glad you're here. And we love sharing what we've learned, everything from real life experiences.
Absolutely. And again, if you want your copy of these tools, of these slides, you can go to our website at the bottom of the screen at www.creativityeffect.com, or you can email myself at andy@creativityeffect.com. So now that we have all the formalities out of the way, let's get into the content of Landing Innovation. We're really excited for this because this is when you start implementing, you start actually putting that rubber to the road, and it actually starts drawing outcomes. So with that being said, Dr. Tilstra, what is landing innovation, and why is it so important within the innovation process?
Well, we know that having an idea and trying to create a better idea is good, but unless you can do something with that idea, it really is just talking. And so ideas don't become valuable until we can do something with them, or they help solve a problem and we actually implement it, or we land the idea. And so we want to share with you some very simple tools. Again, we're all about simplicity and all about tweaking the tools we give you to make them work for you. And so remember, you might have an idea, but until you implement your idea or make your idea happen, it's just words.
Yeah. I think we were at a conference the other day, and I liked what someone said. They said, you can have the best idea ever, but it doesn't become innovative until it becomes real, becomes actually implemented in practice. Part of me wanted to disagree with that, be like, I could have innovation, never implement anything. But I was like, well, that doesn't do anything then. So landing innovation is all about that implementing.
Some say ideas are a dime a dozen. There's tons of ideas. People have ideas all the time, but it's the implementers who become the innovators.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how you can implement some of the ideas that you have.
Awesome. So start with our first idea, which is actually more of a bonus. It actually lies within another tool, but we just wanted to highlight it first, and that is the Who'll Do What by When tool. So this tool is really important for just assigning who is going to do what by when, with the subject, and then an action verb, and then a deadline. Now, what were we able to see this take place at the Innovation Lab with any of our projects, Dr. Tilstra?
Yes. So a couple times before I referred to the project, the Food Pantry. And this is a project we helped a group of public school teachers and city officials bring about a food pantry they had wanted to do a food pantry in some of the schools. And they actually did launch the food pantry, but students did not come and get food, and the parents were very frustrated about the process. So they learned that they had required a lengthy registration process. The students who got the food had to use the food pantry backpack, which embarrassed the students to walk around with this backpack. And the way they picked up the food was very complicated. They had to stand in long lines at the school library. And so even though the program was thought up and implemented, it wasn't working. So they came to us to help them reimagine how the food pantry could become much more effective. And so they actually did learn some things. They talked to students, parents, and teachers, and they learned they actually did not need a registration process, which kind of blew their mind because we have to keep track of everything. They really realized, no, they didn't. They could make a much more simple process of keeping track of food going out. They also did away with the backpack, and they started delivering food in bags to the classroom at noon, and students would pick up the food from the bags and put in their backpacks. That was their plan. And so they really thought it would work, and so they needed to implement it. So this is how they went about implementing their plan of reducing the registration process to pretty much no registration process, doing away with the backpacks, and delivering the food to the classrooms. Okay, so that was their idea. So how were they going to know if it worked and how they were going to implement it? So they started out by Who Will Do What by When. And I thought it was kind of cool because we used the who'll do what by when in the lab, but they printed it off and made the 3x5 cards. And then they sat around the table and said, okay, we have our ideas. Who's going to do what by when to make this happen? And so Terry, Lindsay, and Robert said, okay, we will create a story and we'll give you the tool for the story that we'll present at the next faculty meeting that highlights our project with our solutions. So it's a very valuable tool. So Andy, anything you want to add about this? Who will do what by when? People
I
love it.
don't. Yeah, I just want to say this is a bonus tool that because it can be nestled within another tool of ours. We just really wanted to highlight it because you can add it to anything. You can add it to any project or time, or even your own personal work
Yes.
day. I'm going to do this by 3:30 to
And
just make sure I can have it ready.
we have found when we use this tool, either put it up on a screen and people take notes, or you print it off and people write down, or you make like a line of them and you put however you want to use it. But when people commit to this, it becomes very clear. And then you create when we meet next time, what's going to happen. So again, Terry, Lindsay, and Robert will create a story highlighting the food pantry and the new solutions by the next faculty meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it sounds super simple. It's like, wow, okay, that's really, really simple, but it actually works. And I'm all about simplicity. Simple. Make it simple, make it doable.
Awesome. And so that's the first of our tools today. So let's get into the meatier tools. And as Karen mentioned, the story with the write your own story arc tool that we've designed. So we've actually designed this for ANA, American Nursing Association, which if you're a nurse, check out our webinars on there for your continuing education. We have two up there, I believe, right, Karen?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you need to continue your education, you want to focus on innovation, we have some there. But back to this tool of writing your own story arc. It's derived very similarly from a normal narrative story arc, but we want to focus it on projects. So that starts with 5. Well, that doesn't start, but that is 5 sections of a story. The first one is the inciting incident or the challenge. What was the challenge you came to the project, to the innovation lab with? What is the challenge you started the project with? What is that initial pain point? And from there, what were the insights that you gained? So that's number 2. What was the aha moments or the surprises you got from empathy, from your problem learning? And then after that, and say on section number 3, share your solutions. So from those insights and that initial challenge, what were the ideas and solution you ideated in the 3rd stage of design thinking? And after that, sharing the outcomes of prototyping. What did you prototype? How did it affect the end user? And how did you tweak it to be better? And that leads into the 5th one, which is end with next steps. The story, even though you can have an arc that can come down, it never fully ends. So what is the next steps that need to happen to make sure that it's a everlasting project with an everlasting solution? So that's the story arc. So
and one thing about this story arc, the reason we include it in the implementation is because when you get a project going and you come up with some solutions, it's very easy to over explain your project or your challenge or what you discovered. And the story arc just helps you put it in a way that actually people would like to hear. And I've seen many, many, many teams struggle to, once they're all excited, they have some kind of solution, and then they want to tell everybody. But most of the time, people don't want to listen because they put way too much information. And if they happen to put it in a PowerPoint, usually it's 150 PowerPoint slides. This is a very easy way to keep people focused through story. People learn through story, change happens through story. Mm-hmm. And so the food pantry, Lindsay, Terry, and Robert put the story together following the story arc. So they presented it at the faculty meeting. But one more thing, we had them do it in the 4-minute report out. So you create the story, and then we introduce them to the 4-minute report out.
And this tool works in tandem with the story arc,
yeah.
But it works for the end of a project when you're presenting what you've done and what you've learned in the project to your power sources and your supervisors and your leaders. So
yes. Well, also all projects have to get permission or approval from somebody. And what we've learned, hundreds of projects working with lots and lots of different leaders, that if you can tell your story in 4 minutes, you are going to keep interest, but also you will, following the story arc or this 4-minute report out, you will evoke a lot of really good questions. And the questions will actually matter to the people listening to you. So the problem most people have in a report out is they try to put everything in. And pretty soon leaders are saying, got it, next. You don't ever want that to happen. So you want to get in, quickly tell your story of your project with your solutions, get in, get out, and then they will have questions, and the questions will be relevant. That's what's so awesome about this. And so, Andy, there's a couple things about this report out that make it really powerful. One is that every project we work with, we like them to have a team name, and everybody in the project gets to share a little on the report out. And also, one thing why we created the 4-minute report out is it's really, I think, important when a frontline group staff or middle managers start to develop new things. The traditional way is, okay, give my ideas to my direct report who will tell them. I don't think that's very innovative. I love it when people who actually are solving the problems get to tell the decision makers about what the problem was, what they learned, and what their solution is. Why that doesn't oftentimes happen is that oftentimes they don't know how to do it. They take too long. I have found we created this 4-minute report out so people can get in, tell what happened, tell their story, and get out with a lot of really great questions. And we have found it really exciting. People love it. People are like, we didn't know we would ever get to be able to report anything out or tell the leaders anything. I love this. Use it, tweak it. But there's one thing that goes along with the 4-minute report out, Andy. It's called the feedback grid.
Exactly. So we use the feedback grid for those people coming in to be presented to. So the leaders, supervisors, power sources, we hand them feedback grids on clipboards, and we tell them to capture their thoughts in the 4 quadrants. So the top left is, what did you love about the project or what's being presented to you? Top right is, what would you change? Which is, what would you modify, adjust? Bottom left is, what new ideas do you have? How does this spark new thoughts, new ideas or insights? And then bottom right, what questions do you have? And that's what Karen was saying, is like, with a 4-minute report out, you're bound to have some questions because you can't explain everything in 4 minutes. You can't even explain everything in probably 2 or 3 hours. So that bottom right quadrant is extremely important because it's what are those very powerful questions that need to be asked to this team to set them to the next level. So the feedback grid is a wonderful tool in creating constructive criticism and constructive feedback in a safe and inclusive way that's non-confrontational, because feedback can be pretty sensitive if it's taken personally or even given in a way that's a little aggressive. So we designed this to make it very safe and very constructive with extremely tangible thoughts with it, so it can lead to a next level of a prototype.
Another valuable point of the feedback grid is we discovered that a lot of times leaders don't want to give negative feedback to their reports or the people that answer to them because they don't want to discourage them. And this is an ideal way to help leaders provide really valuable feedback in a way that works for them. And we've just found it to be dynamic, and people have taken this tool and used it in all kinds of settings. We use it in innovation settings or problem solving settings, but we've heard that people use this in so many ways. So take it, use it, tweak it, do whatever you can to help people become better providers of feedback. And if you ever do get feedback, all you have to do is say thank you. You never have to argue or defend. Just thank you. Loved your feedback. So that's when we get to landing innovation, these are some really valuable tools we have found to be very helpful.
Absolutely. So just to recap, we have the who will do what by when, which is you're assigning deadlines and responsibilities to members of the project team. And after that, you have the story arc, which is what happened, what was the inciting incident, what were the new insights, what were the new ideas, what was the prototype, and what are the next steps. And then there was the third one, which is the 4-minute report out, which came out of Dr. Tilstra's dissertation. We've got to give her credit for that. She designed that with an intent on getting the front line in front of leaders and explaining in a very rapid way what they think needs to change. And then the feedback grid, which provides a vehicle for constructive feedback in a safe and inclusive way. Anything you want to add, Dr. Tilstra?
Yes. When we come to implementation, which is always the challenge of any kind of project or idea, when we break it up with some of these tools, the implementation process becomes easier because we start breaking it up. We start sharing the story, because innovation solutions or outcomes have to be socialized. And oftentimes people get really intimidated when it comes like, okay, now we've got these ideas, we prototyped them, we think they're going to work, but how do we get them embedded into wherever they need to be? By using some of these tools, it normalizes the idea, it gives people a chance to give feedback, and it also gives a way to move forward. And implementation is never just a one and done, because the long tail of innovation gets activated, and we have seen projects then evoke other ideas and solutions that lead into other things. And that's what we'll get into next week. How we have found collecting metrics is not just the typical way the world collects metrics. When it comes to innovation, you have to have a different mindset with metrics. And so we're going to touch on that next time. And that will be our last segment of the Innovation Ace. But we're going to be creating other very highly interesting webinars or little presentations like this to help you become a better innovator, better creative thinker, and a innovative leader. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I don't know if there's much else to add to that wonderful exit, other than if you want your own copy of these tools, check out the website, creativityeffect.com, or email me at andy@creativityeffect.com. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you again. We're a mother-son team that are just have a lot of fun innovating. So thanks for joining us.
We'll see you next week, guys. Bye.